grunge layer up on top. It comes over the moon a little bit, but that's actually not a problem. It just kind of makes it look darker and more mysterious. It also took care of my problem of that last lamp because I put this sky up here and then the grunge. It covered up that little bit of lamp that was here. The other thing I might want to do, you've got to choose with colors. It can either have a lot of what you'd call kind of the natural colors. This is the normal colors of the picture, um, which is probably fine, but it's gonna make your text not quite stand out as much because your eye is gonna be drawn to something that's most colorful. So if you have a lot of different natural colors in a picture, it's gonna be hard to make the text really jump out. And so one thing that we could do is go down to this image, and first I'm gonna make a copy of it before I mess around with it, because otherwise it may be hard to get back to the original picture. So I've just used my control copy, control paste to get that new layer. Now that's up on top, so I'll have to move it down again. But now I can change one and not worry about the other one. So what I might want to do is go up here to colors, and I can choose saturation if I want to bring the colors up even more, or contrast, brightness, which I probably won't want to do. I could go darker. It's almost too light with all these lights back here. If I went a lot darker in the background, and what I'm probably going to do is desaturate the picture, maybe not all the way to black and white, but at least a little bit, so that these colors they don't grab your attention so much. And if I was going to put in a red title later, which you might want to do for if this was like a murder thriller, then I'd probably desaturate all the way. The other thing that I can do, now that I have these two layers, this is the regular one and this is the desaturated one. So now I can select this desaturated one and just erase a little bit over the body so that you still get those flesh colors from the girl. And that's going to make the girl really jump out because the rest of the picture is all in black and white. So it makes the girl really stand out now. And then I could even go back to that picture, and if I wanted her to stand out more, I could increase the saturation to make it really colorful. That's almost too much because it looks unnatural. It looks kind of photoshopped. I would probably desaturate it a little bit or just leave it at normal so it's not too strong. You could also up the contrast a bit to make it really dramatic. But again, if you make it too dramatic, it doesn't look natural anymore. The lighting looks fake. You're going to lose some of the detail. And you can zoom in to see closely what it's going to look like. And you don't want to mess it up so much that it doesn't blend with the other picture anymore. And I could add some more either brightness or contrast. You'd want to play with those until you get them right. But that looks pretty good. Now, I mean, it's enough color that it really jumps out. And so I could still put a red title. The other thing to think about, though, is whatever you have in color is going to catch the eye. So you don't want different elements fighting for attention on your book cover. You always have to decide what's the most important. So if I put a big red bloody title up here, that's going to draw the eye first. And that takes away from the body down here. You want them kind of to flow together. So you've got something. I'd probably make the body the most important thing that grabs the eye. So then I'd want to put the text up here, but a little bit not as bold and probably not as red, maybe a little bit more subtle, maybe some glowing text to match this moon. You could also fit in, you may want to make this background even darker, which I could do if I go up here and I just go to darkness, so that it's much darker and then the text will stand out more and then there's this spotlight effect around the body. But that's almost too much because then that doesn't look like it matches anymore. So I'm going to bring that back a little bit. So I could do something like that. I'm tempted to add even more texture with another layer or color or something. So we could see how that looks. And you can play with the layers. Depends on the genre too. And I wouldn't have to do it so much. I could use the transparency again and just get it so there's a little bit of rough texture, but it's not overwhelming. It also helps if you have one texture layer, one color layer on top of everything else. It kind of brings everything together. So like maybe it didn't look totally natural because you've been blending these different pictures and layers together. But if you have one top layer that goes over everything just a little bit, that's going to help. And also, I mean, normally you want some flesh tones. Usually it's orange or yellow, but flesh tones and teal are really good contrast. So adding a little bit of blue in here is good for contrast. And if I wanted, I could also go in again with my eraser tool and erase a little bit of that top layer from over this body, just to make sure that I don't lose too much of the body. Which probably, I mean, it looks pretty good. The only drawback is, like I said, that top layer brings everything together. So when I delete a little bit of the top layer, then it's still not quite one whole piece of art. But I mean, it looks pretty good that way. You could decide whether it's necessary to add that extra bit of texture or not. You could also just do it more around the edges and kind of delete some of this middle area. So there's just a little bit of blue and a little bit of texture around the edges. I'd probably leave it like that. It's a pretty strong Thriller cover, and we can play with the text later. So I'm going to save this one here.